Hey everyone, welcome to the weekly live stream. I'm Nicole and I'm joined by Jessica, who also works with me at Break Even. Thanks for coming on, Jess.
Yes, you're welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
So every week we do a live stream about tech and marketing as it relates to small business. So if that sounds like you, hope you click subscribe and otherwise stick around. There's playlists on the YouTube channel, but also you can go on the website and the blog has all of the past episodes of this sort of thing and is searchable. So today's topic, I called it our branding journey. And you may wonder, like, that sounds pretty touchy-feely coming from me, right? But this really was a journey.
It was a journey.
Yeah. And we can say was because as of the filming of this, I think it's done. So, and, you know, so we've done a past broadcast about branding guidelines and how to make them. I'll link that broadcast in the show notes here. But you know, for the last 14 years, I've basically operated off of a style tile. So that was one of the types of branding guidelines that was in that broadcast. It's pretty bare bones. You have your logo, you have some colors, you have like fonts. It's pretty basic. And the problem was, well, there was two problems. And they both have to do with me, by the way. This is why I needed some help. So number one is not having more detailed branding guidelines meant that every time someone would try to we needed a cover for an event in Facebook, or we needed a flyer. Somebody would try to make something and I wouldn't like it. But I gave these poor people absolutely nothing to work with. So of course I didn't like it. And I knew that was a me problem, right? So most of the time I just said, sure, that's fine. But inside I was like, oh, how can I make this better? But the larger issue was that it kept me from doing things. Like, for example, I've been wanting to redesign our website for like 4 years. But when you have no branding guidelines, everything is this decision. And you have to remember decisions you've made as you go along. So you've decided on the headline font, and you have to remember like, okay, I've decided on this. And, I wanted to put this somewhere else. Like, okay, what was that font again? And Jessica was like, as we started working, she's like, there's like 5 fonts. I'm like, yeah, that sounds about right. I'm surprised there's only 5. So when Jessica came on full time, Jessica and I have been working together for since this fall. She came on full time at the beginning of the year. And I was like, you know what? I want to do this. And I think you're the person to do it because you have a good eye. So I don't know, Jessica, why don't you tell them how I just was like,
ta-da! Which I love.
An accidental, and I knew, and I was like, listen, and here's the thing. If you're going to do this in your company, you just have to keep the lines of communication just open.
Yeah.
And you have to work with someone who is like, can take what you're saying and understand that it's not at all a critique of your personal taste whatsoever. It's just trying to get closer to where we want to go as a company. So Jessica, so basically I was like, hey, Jessica, I want to do this and I want you to get really good at design. So, and no pressure. But I know some general principles, but I know that we need to know more as a company. So I was like, yeah, I don't even know how to scaffold this because I have never delved in. So tell me a little bit about, besides maybe internally freaking out, what
totally did.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's great. It was not a bad thing at all. I am someone who likes a challenge. This was really an exciting opportunity for me. And as Nicole said, when you're working with someone, especially when you're working with something like this, I am here to help her. So that is literally where I took it from. So when I was making something or designing something and she's like, nope, 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 or we'd video call and she's like, the facial expression, which was so helpful. I'm like, noted, done. So I just took notes on all of the correspondences that we had, and not once did I take it personal, because this is not my baby. This is her baby, and I'm here to help. It's our baby. It's our baby.
Yeah, but and I understand that over the last 14 years, we've gone through a few different logo iterations. I'll put them on the screen so that you can sort of see the evolution, but it's always been the lady typing. It's hard to communicate your taste, right? So what we needed to do was just keep the lines of communication open. And then Jessica started like diving into design, right? Just so that, because I was like, I know these basic laws of UX exist and things like that. But what are some resources maybe if like someone else is watching this and saying, I want to be Jessica, because like who wouldn't, right? Like what are some resources that you would give them to maybe like start thinking about getting better at design that you use?
Absolutely. So I was new to all of this. So I started looking at laws of UX, which UX design isn't necessarily what you're thinking of when you're creating an image. That's more graphic design. But knowing the UX design and having that background of how people are going to feel and think when they're looking at your website, when they're looking at your images, when they're looking at your fonts. Because fonts, I'm sure we'll talk
we have feelings about fonts.
We have a lot of feelings about fonts, and we've talked extensively about fonts, especially through this, and really learning the psychology of all of these pieces going together. So I started with UX design, and then I switched over more into graphic design, and then learning those very basic principles of, using lines and using color and using transparency and where things are placed to one another is very important. And what kind of should we talk? This might be a good place for the triangle. So I kept looking around Nicole. She's got triangle carpet. She's got some triangle posters, and then there were triangle trends that I was seeing. And then in a lot of her designs that you had for your social media and some of the way that you design your stuff tends to be in triangles. So whichever direction they are, she tends to move in thirds. So I mentioned that. I was like, I've noticed, am I correct in saying that you like triangles? And she was like,
no. And which explains why I dislike anything I've ever designed. And I was telling Jessica that the reason we have a triangle rug is because I needed to cover, I forget what the dimensions of this rug are. I think it's 12 by 16. Like it's a big rug. And I needed to do it for not thousands of dollars. So I literally bought what I thought was a nice looking rug for the design. The poster that was behind me in the picture she's referencing, and I'll put these on the screen so that like people are, these were posters. I had a wall in our old co-working space. We moved to the space next door last year. And this wall was, I don't know, like 10 feet by 30 feet. Like it was a lot of wall to cover. And I don't know if you've ever looked into things like art, but it could cost a lot of money to figure out how to break up that giant wall and not make it look, long and sad. So besides painting it a color, I basically printed out some laws of UX posters and used frames. So I was able to cover up that much wall space for about $300 instead of, $3,000, right? I literally have spent my life just working with what I have, but I am more curve. I'm more circular. So it's funny. So then as Jessica started producing some like layouts that were more like curve oriented, I was like, yes. It was like this big unblock.
It was an aha moment for sure.
There was a few of those. So I will say, so Jessica kind of dove in and sort of got the principles of design down. And in the meantime, I basically grabbed a Canva template that had branding guidelines. And it was, honestly, if you've seen those branding templates in Canva, they're pretty general, but at least it gave us something to start from. And so what I started doing was opening up one of those, and I just started putting the content I wanted on there. And so I'm like building this up while Jessica's learning, and then she's going in and she's trying to make these, slides like look like our branding, because like that's the point of the branding guidelines, is to sort of take these ideas and make them whatever. So we started putting everything down. And during this stage, there's that stage in every project where like the list starts getting longer, and then you're like, what am I doing? And you start freaking out. Oh, so that's okay. So stage one, we're kind of, we're roughing things out, and Jessica's learning about design. And so stage two is where the list begins to get longer. We're starting to refine. Jessica goes in my psyche and realizes I don't like triangles, even though I've been working with triangles. And then she starts asking me really good questions. That's what I'll say. The other thing is that like Jessica's been in the company for like 6-ish months, but like she's relatively new. Whereas I've been like, this has been my life for like 14 years. So I think it's nice to have an outside perspective to point things out and to ask good questions. So she asked the question of like, who are our clients? Great question. We can address this here.
Yes,
totally. So we made a thing about our clients, like what is their approach? What do they value? That kind of thing. And, we really started, and then the list started getting longer.
Yeah.
And something, and in terms of feedback, we had a couple of meetings, but we mainly used the comment section of Canva.
Which is amazing. I'm a huge fan of it. It's kind of like sticky notes on the side, and it labels like Nicole, Jess, so it goes back and forth, and you can just have a running blog right there, right on the page that you're working with. Be like, I don't like the font, I don't like the circle, I don't like whatever it is. I'm like, great.
You sound like such a jerk.
No. I am simple, straightforward feedback. I didn't take any of it personal. I'm like, great, because as I was learning what Nicole liked, it's helping both of us know how to work with one another, which is phenomenal. So having the notes in Canva works really, really well. I've always been a fan of Canva, but now doing the branding guidelines, I'm even more a fan of Canva and the usability of it.
Yeah. And what was nice is that, we use Slack within the company for communication, but if we were talking about one particular thing, the comment was associated with the page. So like we were able to sort of like have an asynchronous conversation about the fonts or something like that. Even though we did have like 2 like in-person things to kind of just generally go over the slides and as they were going along. So once everything was roughed out, then we had to go through and kind of like finalize some decisions. And what's hilarious is that like I was realizing there was a section about icons. And what I realized is I started looking through, I use the Noun project for icons. I'll link that here in case you want to check it out. It's a really cool site. They have icons for everything. And in looking through icons, I realized I had opinions about icons and how to select them. How I would tell if Jessica was working on some social media images for our company and she had to pick some icons for them, how I would advise her, and actually writing it down. And reading my writing and saying, is that true? And going through and picking icons based on that. And even putting a couple of examples, maybe I'll screenshot that page and put it on here now, of like, this doesn't work and this is why it doesn't work, So at a certain point, you could go on forever, but then you have to like just call it good enough. And we called it good enough. And the main thing that was really keeping me from like finishing it was the font issue. The fonts. As I mentioned earlier, I had 5 different. Jessica was like, "You are using 5 different fonts," and I was like, "Yeah, sounds about right." I'm surprised it's not 10, but like, at least I'm moderately consistent, but not completely. So we finally decided on those. So I have a favorite font. It's called Brandon Grotesque. If you have ever watched The Good Place, the title sequence, like that, the good place is written in Brandon Grotesque. And ever since I saw this font, I really like it. Problem is, it's an Adobe font. Well, no, it's fine. Like, and if you're like a type person, like you're like, you probably have an opinion about this sort of thing, and that's great. We mostly work online, and we mostly work with clients who don't have necessarily a ton of resources. So like we worked with a science education nonprofit, and the font in their logo was an Adobe font, and they wanted it on their website. And I kept lightly pushing back. And finally I said, it's going to cost us $2,000 to license the font on your website. Do you want to just go with a Google font that looks kind of like it? And they said, yeah. So essentially I wanted us to pick a Google font so that we could use it, because we mainly are using it. We're internet marketing people. We use an online application. So I wanted to pick a Google font, and Lato, I think that's how you pronounce it, is the closest thing to the Branding Grotesque, which is the one I like. And it happens to kind of match the font in our logo too, in terms of looks. And we're between a couple other ones that are like it, but I liked the space. Apparently I'm big on kerning, a spacing in letters. Again, it's one of those things where if you are the boss of people and they are producing things that you don't like, that is a you problem. And I knew it was a me problem, but I didn't realize I had all these opinions about things until I started writing them down. And then Jessica would take what I had written down in like very boring whatever, and she would make it look really good and match our branding. And I was able to look at things and say, yes. And you brought in elements like textures, and she brought in elements like, laying things out in a more interesting way than I would lay them out. Curve.
She loves curve.
Hopefully you like it too.
I do. I love it.
Yeah. So at the beginning of our branding guidelines, it says that there are branding guidelines, but it also has a revised date. And I think that communicates to me, and hopefully to everybody who reads it, that we are going to revisit these. Like something might come up. Maybe we start a podcast and we haven't talked about how we format our show notes in our branding, because at the time of this recording, we don't have a podcast. So maybe we would need to go and add that kind of stuff there. I don't know. How did you feel kind of buttoning everything up? Is there anything like that you feel like people would need to know in terms of how they'll feel like it's done?
Yeah, I think I just appreciate being asked to go on a journey with you, because I learned a lot. I really did learn a lot. And I think it would be very easy for you if you were coming into this journey to like not want to do it.
And a lot of people avoid it for years.
Yeah. So yeah, I would recommend having somebody who you work well with and having just a very honest conversation of like, this is not personal. I don't like this. I like this. I think one of the best points of when we were doing the back to the fonts was were we in Slack? No, we were in Asana. We were working with our to-do Asana list, and I had all these choices of fonts listed out with the links to see Nicole's reaction. And it was immediate, like, so being able to read one another is really helpful too. We were on a Zoom link, but I did a number scale. Okay, she likes that. She liked 0. She does not like that one. 3, 5.
I saw the number scale after, and I was like, that's a really good idea.
Yeah, the number scale worked out really well.
It did. I saw the list after, and I was like, oh, I didn't.
Yeah, we still have that. We still have that. And I like to look at it. It makes me laugh because it was brilliant. It just was very organic when it happened, and it was not planned out or anything. But I think concepts like that, when you're going through your branding guidelines, or just knowing, like, you didn't realize how emotional you felt towards triangles.
I didn't know.
She didn't know, but it was just something I picked up on, where everything she was designing, and there were lots of triangles everywhere. So I was thinking, oh, she loves triangles. So as soon as she said, nope, I took all the triangles out. I took them out, and then I was like, started to like it.
I was like, oh, I like this better. Yeah. This explains why things I design I don't like, because I don't know where I got this idea from in the subconsciousness, but the second that Jessica said it, I was like, okay. So besides accidentally being my therapist, Jessica was able to sort of point out patterns that I didn't necessarily pick up on because I was so close to the process. So we have these finalized kind of guidelines that we plan on probably revisiting either as things come up or maybe once a year, and just kind of seeing, okay, is this still true? And the next step that I see is that makes our website redesign possible, as well as making some new branded social media images, which have been on my list for a while. It's almost like finally doing this. It's like all those other things that were on my list now feel a lot more doable, even though they're still like pretty big projects. They just feel like they'll be way less painful and, and all of that. So I will say that it took us, I mean, it's not like this has been your full-time thing. Jessica's also been doing other work. But between the two of us, what has it been, like 3 months?
Yeah, it's been about 3 months.
It's been about 3 months of each of us part-time kind of working on this. Yeah. And me sitting down for periods of time and like, coming up with longer form content and things like that. And just really thinking, why do I like something? And in a lot of times I had to think about it for, I would hit a certain wall, and then I'd be like, okay, I'm going to come back and think about why do I feel that way about certain stock photos? Like, what is it about certain stock photos I like versus stock photos I don't like, that kind of thing. And so, yeah, I think it's a good thing to do, even if you've been avoiding it for a while. I would say that I don't know how anybody would do this by themselves, but what really helped us a lot is that we had a really set logo. Marty Lyons in Ellsworth, Maine, at Studio 3 did that for us, about 4 or 5 years ago. And, really, really, I think nailed the brand. And I guess if you don't have a logo or just want to start completely from scratch, I would recommend working with a logo or a branding agency, somebody like Marty or similar, because once you have the logo, even with the logo, this was kind of hard. And by hard, I mean, it took time and effort and communication. So I would say that if you don't have anything to start with, that it is beneficial to work with an agency like that who will get you to something that you can start with. And then I feel like if you can start with that, then you can kind of go through a process like Jessica and I did, of asking good questions and things like that. Yeah.
It was fun. It was fun.
I like that one of us thought it was fun.
Yeah.
It was one of those things I wanted to happen, but I also knew, and part of me too, like recording today, like this doesn't necessarily paint me in the best light, right?
Oh,
no. But you know what I mean? Like, I've been avoiding problems. I've been inconsistent. Like, it's kind of pointing out some things that have been bothering me about stuff we've been doing for ourselves. And I want to get better at too. And also going through this process once for breaking even, we're going to go through it for the co-working space. Oh, I'm glad that's your reaction.
Yay!
I'm like lightly dreading it, but I also think because we've been through it once, it's like, okay, the second time it's going to be easier. So, that's going to be better. But, and we'll be able to, I think, do better things. You laughing at me. Well, I'm glad one of us feels that way because, once you have these things, you start thinking of all the things you can do, which is exactly what I'm thinking of. And the list is, but, I will say it feels like a bit of a load to have something written down. And what I like now is if somebody starts with our company, or if I don't know, we decide we need to get a sign designed or something like that. We don't do print design. If we need something designed, we can hand someone our branding guidelines, and at least they can get us a really good first draft. And that's my only goal, is to use this to help us get really good first drafts. Because if you have a really good first draft, it's the second draft usually is the final draft, and that's efficient. So anything else about the branding guidelines journey you want to talk about?
I really did enjoy the process. I think I could support you in being able to feel more confident about what you're putting out,
Yeah.
So it's like knowing that you like certain things and know, okay, well, this is how I can gear it towards me liking it and my clients liking it. It's fun.
Yeah.
I'll do it again.
Aw, well, good, because you're gonna.
Yeah.
So I think what we're going to do here, just in case it helps other people, I know that there's branding guidelines in Canva. I'm not pretending there isn't. But what we're going to do is make our sort of template available. We kind of put a lot of things like voice and other things that I didn't see in any of the other Canva branding guidelines. I'm not saying it's not there, but if you want our template, we're going to just put the link on the screen. And what you can do is you can just go to this and download what we've got and work with it yourself. So if you sign up, it'll get your email, and then it'll email you the link. So that's kind of how that works. So you're going to join our email list. I promise we're not going to annoy the crap out of you. At least I don't think so anyway. But yeah, so if you want to kind of see what we did and want to work with what we started with, and edit from there, that'll be available to you. So yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks for watching. Yeah, no, thanks for coming, Jessica.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, and I think
me.
Jessica's going to be a regular part of things, I think, here, like once a month-ish. So if you have kind of design stuff you want us to talk about, or branding, or just sort of visually marketing stuff, that would be good for Jessica. I have a couple of ideas already, but we'll start with those. But if you have any any ideas about marketing or tech at all that you want to know, just leave it in a comment below. So thanks for watching. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you next week. Take care.
Bye.